So today's episode is slightly different. We actually have a lovely client with us today that I've been treating recently for the last 5 to 6 treatments on her verrucas. Now, she's had a very interesting story and journey as to how it started, all the things that happened in between to the point that she came to see me at the clinic. So I would love to just introduce you guys to her and she can explain her story. So if you don't mind, please tell us a little bit more about how this all started.
Yeah, hi. So I basically, it started a long time ago. So it started about, well, the first verruca I ever noticed I had was actually when I was about 12 or 13.
Wow, that's a long time.
So a long time ago, well over 10 years. And I realised that I had it was like a little pinprick sort of hole on the heel of one of my feet.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think anything of it, and it kind of stayed that size for years.
Yeah.
And then over maybe the next 2 or 3 years, it kind of started to get bigger, but it was still quite unproblematic. Like there was no discomfort, it wasn't painful. I barely noticed it really, but it was there.
And just to confirm for everyone else, which foot was it on?
It was my left foot.
It was your left foot, right?
It was my left foot.
It was on the heel, just to clarify.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And then probably about, I'd say 5 years into it, kind of started to spread.
Right.
I think one thing is I tend to touch my hands and my feet quite a lot. That's just a habit that I have. And so from doing that, I think it kind of spread to the rest of the left foot.
Right.
Kind of working up the left heel.
Yeah.
And then start to spread on the right side.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, okay, this is getting bigger. It still didn't hurt or anything.
Okay, which is good because not all verrucas actually hurt. Some are asymptomatic and some are symptomatic. So this is a classic sort of example of you might not have felt it, but you can definitely see it's visible.
Yeah, I think that was the problem the main problem for me is the fact that it started to look awful.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, it started to look awful. And then I decided to seek help. I thought, if I leave it, it's going to just spread and spread and spread.
For sure.
So I went to my GP, just sought some help to think. I didn't know what it was at the time.
Yeah.
But I thought it was something that might be fairly common. They'll probably be able to tell me what it is when
Of
they
course.
see it. So they said they did think it was warts at the time.
Yeah.
But they decided to give me steroid cream.
See, that's very strange because you don't normally give a steroid cream for plantar warts or verrucas. It's just not really done. So please continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, after a long battle with this, I kind of know that now. But at the time, I was like, oh great, give me a cream.
You wouldn't know, right?
Yeah,
It's been given to you. You kind of think, oh, they know best.
It's basically magic in a tube. He gave me a little tube, and he was like, give it 3 months, reapply it every night.
3 months, wow, that's a long time.
And it should work, but he was like, steroid obviously thins the skin and things.
Of course.
So you've got to be really careful with it, but that's just sort of I think that his thought behind it was that it would thin down the skin so much and it would just get rid of whatever was sitting on the skin. I think that was kind of the rationale behind it.
I can understand where that process kind of came into it, but for anyone else that's ever used steroid creams before, you may have been advised by your GP or pharmacist that you just use it for a couple of days, a sparingly small amount, because you don't want to thin the skin out, because that can cause other issues later on, which is obviously something we want to avoid.
Yeah.
So 3 months is a really long time. So we had the cream, so that was what you started using. What did you notice when you started using that cream? Did you see any changes?
I barely saw a change. One thing I did tell my GP was that I was using a foot file, one of those foot files, to file it down.
Yeah.
I wasn't told to use it by anyone. It's just something that I found helped because the skin would get so thick and coarse that I'd have to file it down in order for it to be more comfortable for me to walk. And I did think it looked better. It almost looked like it was improving when it was being filed down.
Right.
So I told my GP that. He said to continue doing that because if it's helping, then just continue.
Yeah.
Obviously now I know that is not the best thing to do because if you use one on one foot and then use the same file on the other foot, it just spreads so it wasn't really helping. In fact, it was making it worse.
So you kind of feel there was a cross-contamination from one side to another.
Yeah. So aside from just touching my feet, I think that filing it, using the same file on both feet didn't help.
Yeah, I would definitely advise anyone who has verrucas, please don't just file them and use the same file anywhere else on the foot because you can spread verrucas from one side to another.
Exactly. So that's why I came to Vietnam.
Yep. It's a learning curve, and this is great for people to be able to see as well.
Yeah.
So what happened after that?
So then after that, 3 months had passed, no change.
Yeah.
I was using the steroid cream constantly every night. Went back to the GP at that point. He then said to continue to use it for another 3 months.
Okay.
So 6 months had gone by in the end.
Wow.
But by the time we had tried that treatment, 6 months had gone by.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not doing much. What was happening was it was still spreading.
Yeah.
So there was
we actually have the photo, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually see the photo of the foot over here. You can see just how
much it spread. Yeah. So there was almost like a cluster on the right bottom of the heels.
Yeah.
And they were sort of spreading, radiating out. It always looks like it's radiating out, as you can see. Yeah. So then that happened, and then I went back to them. They said to use sort of like cryotherapy, but over-the-counter stuff.
Yeah.
So over-the-counter freezing products to try and get rid of it. And then he said to also use salicylic acid,
which is fine.
Which is correct.
Yeah.
But it's over-the-counter stuff. So with the over-the-counter stuff, you can only get that to like a certain strength.
Which is in this country around 25 to 26% over-the-counter. They did have slightly higher, but they don't offer that anymore. So please check in your country to see what's available.
Yeah, exactly. So I used that for some time as well. Again, the salicylic acid did absolutely nothing because it was just so weak it couldn't really penetrate the hard skin. The freezing kind of, I mean, it looked like it was doing something because I'd freeze it up and oh my god, it's so cold and go white and everything, which is great. But after it kind of warmed up, it didn't really leave any lasting effect on it. So that again was useless. So at this point, this is probably we've got up to about 2 years ago now.
Okay.
Then I noticed it started on my hands.
Yeah.
And then I got really panicked because I had them all over my hands.
Was it everywhere or like on the fingers itself?
It started with one on the right hand.
Yeah.
It was on my palm.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there it started to spread. Okay. Just like the foot, it spread. Yeah. And then I got really panicked.
I can imagine.
And then I was like to my GP, it's not working, nothing's working.
Oh no.
I need to do more.
Yeah.
So he decided to refer me to dermatology. Mm-hmm. And I thought, great, it's the skin specialist, they'll surely know what to do about this.
Right.
So I went to see the dermatology probably a few months later, referrals take some time.
Mm-hmm.
I think my main frustration was that the time it took just meant that this was getting worse and not better.
Yeah, I mean, that must be quite upsetting, right? Because you're thinking you're not doing anything to help the problem.
Exactly, but I can see it spreading, so every 2 weeks or 3 weeks there's a new one coming.
Oh gosh. And
none of them are going. It got to the point where it was just like really embarrassing, honestly, because it was so obvious now on my hands.
Yeah.
On the foot it's not so bad, but when it stops on the hand, it's a lot more obvious.
Because it's easier to hide on your feet than it is. You can't wear gloves. So
exactly. Exactly. So we tried. So I saw dermatology. They knew what it was. To be fair, they did tell me it was plantar warts, and they used a certain term for it. Because of the appearance of it. I can't remember what word they used.
Mosaic?
Mosaic, yeah, exactly. So they got the diagnosis correct, but then they said there's not much that we can do for it. Sometimes they go on their own. Most times, you can buy over-the-counter stuff.
Yeah. I
was adamant I wasn't going to try that again.
Oh, bless you.
And so I had because I'm a healthcare professional, yeah. Still, and I kind of pushed for them to do something about it because I was working, in contact with the public, and obviously if something's on my hands, it can transfer to something else.
Of course.
So I had seen. Then I started researching videos online.
Right.
And I had seen there was one video in particular of someone, I can't remember who it was actually, but they had done some freezing, some proper cryotherapy.
Yeah.
Not the over-counter stuff, like actual. I think nitrogen.
Liquid nitrogen, yeah.
And I was like, that's what I need this. So I went to them, I pushed for it. They did do it for me. They freeze off one wart, but they were really reluctant to do it.
On your hand or
on my hand? On your hand,
right?
And I thought that might make a difference, but it just kind of, it didn't make a difference. I think it was still there, but there was a lot of I had lost some feeling actually around that wart because of the freezing and how long it had been frozen for. So it kind of didn't help still. But anyways, in my pursuit online, I found you. And I was like, that's what I've got. I definitely have that. Because there was a video of you treating someone's plantar wart, and I was like, this is exactly what I've got. And I saw you I just wanted to see the after, because I was like, I need to see the after to know if it's sort of if it would work or if it would work for me.
Which is a really fair point, because when you're watching videos on YouTube and stuff, like you never know like what's actually going to happen, and like, you know, how many edits have happened and have people cut it, and
how many treatments.
Exactly.
There's never a follow-up almost. You kind of don't see the end.
Yeah.
So when I had seen the after pictures, I was like, yeah, this is it. And I was like, oh, I hope she's in the UK. Because all these videos are in America, and I was like, I can't, obviously I'm going to fly for this, like, I just can't do it. But you were in London.
I was in London.
Great. And then I got in contact with you, and I think, honestly, the night that I booked the appointment with you, I had bought like so many like ointments, treatments, freezing stuff, salicylic acid. I bought loads of stuff myself. Yeah. And I just thought, I'm just going to attack it with everything and see if it works. And then I came here, and then we started treatment.
And this is where I'm going to like jump in and say it was absolutely amazing to hear the story, because I can't imagine how many people must go through the same similar thing of not knowing what a plantar or verruca is, how to stop it from spreading, what treatment you can get, what's a suitable treatment, what's not so suitable as a treatment. And I think when you did come the first time around, and like I just remember I felt so like, you know, I was like, oh my god, like you poor thing, because you came in and you were like, I don't know if you're going to be able to help me, but like this is what I have. And I remember seeing both of your feet, and we started off treating your left foot first, which is the photo that you guys have seen. So just as a repeat, you guys can see this again. So, you know, this is one thing that I would love to be able to tell my clients, like, oh, your verruca is going to go by this time with this date. And, you know, as a podiatrist, we just can't do that. It just depends on how the treatment and how you respond to it, right? So I remember I said to you, I sat there, I was like, listen, there's a lot here, so I don't know how quickly this is going to go. We might have to do this like multiple times, and it might take a good length of time for this one. But you responded so well to the treatment, which was so good.
To be honest, I was still quite skeptical, because I was like, the ones I've seen are like, they're like, I don't know if it's a nice wall, but they're nice little round walls. Yeah. You can see they've got 3 or 4 or 5 that you can count them, whereas mine were just, they had spread so much that they were like clusters of warts. So you couldn't sort of differentiate between 1 and 2 warts. It was like
they were all
one
like
massive wart and then loads around it. So I was just like, well, you know.
In hindsight, I wish we were able to record this for people to see, but it's okay, because now we're going to see before and after photos instead, and we get to hear from you as well, so you can see your experience. So now that you've actually had like the treatment with like a podiatrist like myself, how would you like describe how it felt, like in terms of like when you were having treatment compared to home treatments versus like obviously a more medical sort of industrial strength, so to speak. How was the freezing and how was the chemical?
I think the first, so we've done, I don't know how many we've done. We've done about 5.
We've done 5.
5 treatments. Yeah. So the first treatment was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
It was very comfortable. There was no pain or anything like that. It was just like you could scrape back a lot of the sort of hard skin, and you'd freeze it and then put the acid on it. And to be honest, I didn't feel anything. Yeah. I think because the skin was so hard by that point.
There was a lot of calcium.
There was like, I barely felt anything, and then the bandage was put on and I went home. And even days after, it did nothing. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any pain or anything like that.
Fantastic.
But as the treatments went on, so I think as we got to probably the 3rd treatment, it was like, because the skin gets thinner, obviously, if you're cutting sort of all the dead skin around it, the tension's gone, and so your nerve endings are more sort of, you can feel them a lot more without the dead skin there. Then it started to be a bit more comfortable with the freezing. Especially because you have to freeze it for a minute and a half.
But each one, not just one and then that's it. Like each single verruca was being treated.
The last 15 seconds,
we had a technique, didn't we? It was like a clapping technique. We were like, come on, we can get to this aspect.
Power of distraction is great, but I was clapping like for my laugh for 15 seconds. But it still wasn't terrible. And I think because I've had it for so long, the determination to get it done.
Get rid of it. It was definitely, I loved it. You just sat there and you were just like, go for it, we need to get rid of these, like, we need to go.
And also, I think, because you kind of get to, so once you've had the treatment, you spend 7 days with the bandage on.
Yes.
You have to keep it dry. And then after the 7 days, you take the bandage off and then you do these salt water soaks. And so it was quite nice to get to see the progression at home, like by myself, to actually see that it's improving. I think that was a big motivator for me, because even by the first treatment I had kind of seen a difference, quite a big difference to be honest. And that just meant that I just kept on top of it because I knew it was going. So I think when I first came in, I was adamant to know like how many treatments is it going to take, when am I going to be healthy, sort of thing, with like a working, functioning looking foot. But as the treatments go by, you kind of see the progression, and then you get more patient for the process.
For sure.
Because it is definitely a process. It doesn't go in one day, and actually it's been like 12 years in the making to get to the point where it has been. Treating it won't take one treatment, it'll take two.
Absolutely.
But it was well worth it. Now that I see the results, it was well worth it.
Oh, so bad. So I think every appointment we did have, after I took away the calcium remainder of verruca tissue, I actually let you look at your own foot. I was like, look so you can see between what I'm seeing. Because like, there's no point in me sitting there going, yeah, that's an improvement if you can't see it yourself. So I think that was again another something that you were like, oh my god, actually I see something going. Which was nice. And then I think after 5 sessions, the photo you see now is pretty much how the heel was looking, which I think both of us were just so happy to see that everything was just clearing up. So just for the record, for everyone to know that we are just waiting on one final verruca on the foot, which is actually at the top on the toe, to kind of just make its final kind of exit point. And another fascinating thing, which I think you got to experience, is even though we were treating the verrucas on your feet, the verrucas on your hands started to go too.
So when I started off treatment, I had loads of verrucas on my left foot, a few on the right foot, and then I counted them in total. I had 11 on my hands. So they had spread that much. And we actually haven't treated any of the verrucas on my hands. No, we haven't treated anything on the hands yet. We just doing the feet treatments. All but 2 now have gone. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, that's 9 walks have gone on their own. During the process, and I think it's just you explained it as like the inflammatory response. So once you sort of cause inflammation at one site, it's sort of easy to spread to other sites. And so the way you explained it to me and the way the doctor explained it to me was that because the HPV virus that causes verruca sits on the top of the skin, the body kind of doesn't detect that it's there. But with causing that inflammatory response, the body kind of wakes up to it, and then it kind of attacks it from everywhere. Obviously, it takes time, but it's almost like it just woke up to know that there's something on my hands and sort of push them out.
I know.
Some have been more stubborn than others with the ones on my hands, but most of them are gone now. So I'm just hopeful, fingers crossed.
So I'm really looking forward to actually seeing you in 2 weeks from now. So the appointments that we've been doing have been repeated on a 2-week basis because of the way the skin cycle renews. And we've been catching it before it has a chance to replicate, so to speak again. So my hopes for when I see you next is I'm really hoping that final one has just kind of made its way out. And it'll be really interesting to see how it is looking on your hands, if that kind of gave it the final push for the last 2 on your, I think it's your right hand. I was like, okay. So it'll be interesting to see how that fares there. But, if, for example, we clear the one on the foot, I think we have discussed that if we need to do 1 session on the hand, then we'll do that 1 session there, and fingers crossed that should be kind of like the end of this 12-year saga, so to speak, right? No, longer, actually. I think 15 years?
I can't imagine my life now about verrucas, honestly, but I'm looking forward to it.
Is there anything you'd like to share others who might be suffering with verrucas at all?
I think my main thing would be not to ignore it. So if you notice that you have a verruca or something you think is abnormal or like a little... Because a lot of the times they go unnoticed because they don't cause any bother. But if you see that you have it, it's best to treat it, to get it treated, because they spread. And when they, sometimes they can be dormant for a long time, like mine were. But when they decide to start spreading, they spread quickly and fast. So if I feel like if I had come earlier and sort of took an interest in it earlier, the treatment would have been a lot shorter and it would have been a lot less aggravation for me personally. But I just kind of didn't know what it was, like life gets onto you, busy and things like that. It's easy to ignore, but I would say to start treatment as soon as you notice it, because it's just a lot less painful.
So true. I think you've nailed it on the head, to be honest. I guess my final question to you would be, how are you going to celebrate once you're verruca free?
Oh my God. I'm going to wear flip-flops all around London.
Like, check out my feet.
Yeah. But it's just the fact that I know that they're gone.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, even if they did come back, I know how to treat it, and obviously I'd come back here and things like that. So
yeah, always.
I'm not so like nervous about it now like I was before.
Oh. Well, thank you so much for joining me also with your journey and trusting me to be able to help you, and thank you for sharing your journey with everyone else, because I think that's so beautiful and it's so nice for people to be able to share their experiences, so anyone else that's suffering can really just understand and get the help that they need. So thank you again.
No worries, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
So we're here for the follow-up appointment now. So we're just going to be taking away the skin that's kind of left on the heels from the remainders of the treatment during the verruca. And it is looking pretty clear to me that it's clear, which is exciting. So we're going to take that back, have a final inspection, and you might get the heel that you wanted for a long time. Right, so I'm going to start off with the antibacterial first, slightly cold. And we're going to take it back. So what people can't see, but today is beautiful weather.
Yeah.
It's so sunny and lovely.
It's so sunny and bright today.
Absolutely. And it's so nice to have like more of a pampering treatment, although today might be one of the days you probably miss having that cold cryotherapy on your foot.
But it's like the perfect temperature out there. It's not too hot, not too cold. Once we've got what 23 degrees feels like.
Right. I forgot what the sun looks like.
Yeah, literally.
And now that it's illegal to travel in the UK, it's just so nice to have sunshine.
Some good weather at home.
Yeah. So you don't really feel like you need to go anywhere. Although I wouldn't say no to a nice little holiday right now. What about you?
I wonder what they're going to do about that, if they're going to actually go for all of these vaccine passports, or when they're going to just loosen the reins on that, really. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really torn, but how would they kind of like monitor and make it official? Like anyone can say they had that, they just kind of like, you need to have proper documentation, and will all countries accept every single vaccine available? That's like another one.
That's another thing.
And then like, what if they don't? Does that mean you can't travel? You need to get vaccinated again or something else?
Exactly.
All these questions that we still have yet to find out.
And they're even still saying that it lasts about a year. So
Oh.
I don't know whether we'll need different vaccines next year or...
Like a booster or something, right?
Yeah. Well, they're saying it's going to be like a flu jab, sort of like once a year type of thing, but who knows?
Crazy, right? Oh my god, this is looking fantastic. Everything's coming away. There's like callus that I'm removing for you right now. Hopefully that's comfortable for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine.
And then I'll let you have a look at your foot, because I think that's the first time you can. I'm going to use a little device before I show you your foot, if that's okay. And it's going to be what we call a Morse disc.
A Morse disc?
That's right.
Okay. What does that do?
It gets rid of any superficial layers of skin that's too thin for the scalpel to remove.
Okay.
Right? And it rotates pretty fast and it makes a bit of a noise. I'm just going to turn it slightly that way. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So we're just checking to see how the skin feels. Perfect. Going to tackle that bit there. Is that comfortable for you?
Yeah.
And then once I do that, you'll have like nice skin once again. Is it blurry? Okay. Perfect. Right, now be prepared to be tickled. So just to remind myself and yourself, when's the last time your feet were completely clear of verrucas?
Oh, I don't think I can remember. Probably completely clear of verrucas. I'd say Probably like 2005.
2005.
2004, yeah.
Wow, 2004, 2005. Okay, so we're looking at.
Because I always had that one. It wasn't any trouble at the time, but it was still there.
Yeah.
Probably 2004.
Wow.
Oh my god, that's crazy, isn't it?
That's absolutely crazy. So this is going to be like something you haven't actually physically seen in forever.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's exciting for me too. Right, I'm going to use this device now. If at any point it's uncomfortable, you just tell me and I can change it up for you, okay?
No worries.
How's that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Just going to get you to move this one side that way. Thank you. All done? That wasn't too bad, was it?
No, that was fun.
Perfect. Just the antibacterial again.
Oh, it's so cool. It feels so nice.
Oh my god, that looks spectacular. And I'm not just saying that, I'm really excited for you to see it. Okay, so I'm just going to get you to have a look now.
Yeah.
Go for it, I'm really excited.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. It's insane.
That's your
It
foot.
feels like such a small thing, but I've not seen it like in ages. Honestly.
So
It's
I'm
crazy.
super happy to say that you're absolutely clear. Are you okay?
Thank you so much, yeah. I'm feeling a bit emotional.
Oh, bless you.
Amazing.
There we go. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with everyone.
Thank you so much.
And enjoy your feet.
Thank you.